If you're dealing with pain anywhere around this kneecap, specifically in the soft areas around it, chances are you're dealing with what we call patellar tendonitis, or some people might call it jumper's knee. And what that means is this big tendon here that's connected by all your quadriceps is irritated and it's been experiencing way too much stress. Now, there's two types that I really want you to be aware of. Whereas if you just started feeling symptoms around this kneecap, chances are you can just take a couple days off of the exercise that you're doing and you'll probably start to feel better. But if you already tried rest and you're experiencing pain still, then it might be a little bit more chronic and we actually have to strengthen this tendon. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. But before I actually give you the exact routine, I do want to give you a couple of guidelines that I think will serve you tremendously. First, when it comes to tendons, they love to be warmed up. So when you go for a walk or just start to gently use the knee joint, you'll start to experience a situation where the knee doesn't really feel too bad anymore. And that's what we're going to take advantage of. So when we start to exercise, you don't feel like you're being held back by your discomfort. Number two, isometrics are going to be perfect for patellar tendonitis. It's a gentle way to expose that tendon to a little bit of stress in a way that doesn't feel daunting, right? And then last but not least, they also love heavy and slow resistance training. And in today's routine, we're gonna be taking advantage of all three of these strategies so you can actually start moving and feeling your best. So without further ado, we're actually gonna get down on the floor here to start with the first phase. The first phase of this exercise routine is what I call desensitization. And what that just means is we're gonna make the area feel better and less cranky. I have a foam roller here. You can do a lacrosse ball, you can use a weight, or you can use your hands. But what we're gonna be doing here is searching for tender spots across the four muscles here that are in front of the leg. So as I go up and down and search for that tender spot, like right here, I'm going to squeeze my quad and then slowly relax into the pressure. And I'm just gonna rinse and repeat this until I start to feel like it's less sensitive. Then I'll just go to the next area. And what I would love for you to do here is just sit around these areas for the next 30 to 60 seconds, just hunting for them. And once we get a quadricep that doesn't really feel too sensitive, that's gonna set us up perfectly for the next stage. Now, the next thing that I'm going to mention here is optional. You also can take this a step further, especially if your quadricep tendon is super sensitive. What you're gonna do is start putting pressure into the mushy or soft parts around the kneecap and what we call cross friction. So you're just going side to side into these mushy areas, moving that kneecap around and making sure that it is moving without discomfort. Once again, we're just going to try to do this for the next 30 to 60 seconds. We shouldn't be spending a lot of time here because this won't improve your situation, but it also could create a gateway of time where it feels good to move, right? So it's a cherry on top, but it's not gonna be the thing that moves the needle. After we feel like it's pretty good and desensitized, we're gonna go on to stage two. That's where we're going to warm up the joint so the tendon is actually prepared to be loaded. So the first exercise of this is called a knee CAR or controlled articular rotation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give my thigh a big ol' hug here. And what I'm going to be focusing on is extending my leg and also rotating. Because most people don't know this, the knee joint also rotates as well. And when it doesn't rotate the way that it should, we start to experience pain in ways that we shouldn't necessarily feel, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give our leg a big ol' hug. We're going to rotate the whole leg inwards, extend, rotate out, and then back in like that. And what we're gonna do here, 12 to 15 reps, we're just trying to focus on getting the knee warm and prepared for the last step of this routine. Now, right now, my cat is running all around us. She might make some type of special appearance but we'll see. Just quite distracting. Couple more here. Now what I'm feeling is my hamstring is feeling, oh, there she is. Frankie might steal the show. All right, now that this feels nice and warm, you can do it on both legs if you'd like, but obviously we want to really focus on the one that's problematic. We're going to go into the next exercise for warming up the area, which is called the hip thrust. I'm going to come here over to the couch. Everyone has a couch. For some reason, if you don't have a couch, you can use a bench. You can use anything that's going to prop your upper body up. You're going to drop down so the surface is right beneath your shoulder blades. And what we're going to do with our feet is we're going to situate it in a way that feels the best for you. The feet can go further away from the glutes, which is going to be more hamstrings, or the feet can come closer to the glutes and it's going to be more glutes, right? So find what works for you. From here, all we're going to do is really focus on the hips, raising up, and we're going to squeeze them as hard as we can. Now for bonus points, I want you to think about taking this leg and driving it to your butt, because when you do that, you can engage your hamstrings even further. So as the hips come up, I'm thinking about squeezing those hamstrings and then coming back down. And we're going to do this for 12 to 15 reps because once again, we're just trying to warm up the knees. And when we warm up the hamstrings and glutes, it actually helps the quadriceps because when one side of the joint contracts, so does the other. So we're indirectly working our quadriceps without us really knowing. If you want to make this harder, you can always go into a one leg, just like so. It's completely up to you. And of course, you can always add weight as well. We're gonna do one more. Beautiful. So by this point, my knees are feeling pretty dang warm. Now I actually feel prepared to expose this tendon to additional stress. The two movements that we're gonna be doing is an isometric and very slow, heavy resistance. Now we're gonna modify this a couple ways just so you understand how to manipulate stress in a way that it's not too much or too little. Because if we don't stress it enough, we don't make an adaptation. If we stress it out too much, we're gonna wake up the next day feeling super cranky, okay? So what we're gonna do is make sure we're not gonna step on Frankie here. We're gonna stand up. I'm gonna grab a weight here. So remember that weights are a necessity. I'm just grabbing it so I can make sure that I am at a level where I feel challenged. The first thing that we're going to be doing is an isometric. Isometric just means we're holding a position against resistance. If you are new and your knees are really problematic, what we want to do is just get down to a point where we start to feel that discomfort. So maybe it's just right here. That's where we're going to hold it for 30 to 60 seconds for 2 sets or so. Now, if this is too hard, come up a little bit higher. Not a big deal. Too easy, drop it lower, add weight, or get into a lunge position. A very important principle that I want you to be aware of is where are your knees in space? So, by me getting super wide here with my isometric and coming down, you can see that my knees aren't really past my toes. And because of that, I'm not gonna really feel a lot of tendon stress. And that might be perfect for where you currently are. But if I were to bring my feet very close, look how much my knees go past my toes. A lot of tendon stress. So you can also play around with your technique within the exercise to manipulate how much stress we're putting on it. So I really want you to be aware of that. But we're gonna hold this for 30 to 60 seconds, both sides, for about 2 sets. Once we do that, this might feel cranky. It might feel really worked. And if that's the case, we can just stop here. Or if you're feeling like you can do more, that's where we're gonna start doing heavy and extremely slow resistance training. I've grabbed a heavier dumbbell here, or well, kettlebell, and that's gonna make sure that I feel more challenged. What we're gonna do is get into that squat stance. You're gonna lower yourself. And I want you to think 5 seconds. It's gonna be like a snail's pace. And when you get to the bottom of the squat, if it's not this low, that's completely okay. You're gonna hold for about 2 more seconds. And then you're just going to come up for another 5. Nice and slow. Both isometrics and heavy, slow resistance training gradually puts stress on the tendon, but not in a way where it's going to add like a shock absorption effect. Because our tendons are elastic, like rubber bands. And if we were to drop fast, we're gonna be using a tremendous amount of tendon. Whereas if we keep it nice and slow, we're exposing that tendon, but we're not beating it up, okay? So as we go down, hold, come back up nice and slow, and that's what we're going to do. If that is too easy, once again, we can get into this lunge position, manipulating where our knee is to find that perfect amount of stress, and this can be also perfect. Last exercise that I want to show you. It's called the Patrick step. You don't need to load it, but I love to load it in a way that I feel challenged, but I also feel stable. Like my balance is pretty anchored into this foot. I'm going to let that knee drift forward, reaching this foot or heel as far as I can, and then bringing it back up. Once again, super slow, but I love to do this because we're also taxing the hip stability of that planted foot. Now, that is the routine that we're going to be doing today. Something that I want to be very clear on. The next day, if you feel like the area is overworked, you feel like your symptoms are a little bit higher, chances are you did nothing wrong. What most likely happened is you did too much too soon. So all you got to do is pick an easier exercise, pick less reps, or pick less weight, okay? By doing these things, you'll be able to find the perfect stress for your current capabilities, and then from there, it's a rinse and repeat. Now, I guarantee you, if you were to do this routine, stay consistent with it, you, just like all my other clients, will overcome this issue, and you'll be able to get back to doing the things you love to do.